Similar to boom bap and trap, lo-fi has its own aesthetic and sonic characteristics, so let's talk about it. What's up guys, Barry here, and if it's your first time to the channel, we talk about hip-hop, beat making, and general music production. So if that's your thing, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. With that said, in today's video, I'm going to share with you 6 tips and tricks on how to capture that lo-fi aesthetic in your beats. So with that said, let's jump into Maschine and make some beats. A lot of lo-fi music is informed by jazz, and jazz utilizes chord extensions. So tip number 1 is to utilize your 7, 9, and 11 chords. First, let's listen to the chord progression without any chord extensions. And now to jazz it up with some chord extensions. Alright, let's mute the piano and listen to the progression in a more musical context. Lo-fi is short for low fidelity, so tip number 2 is to use a low pass filter to shrink your frequency range to get closer to that lo-fi aesthetic. Lo-fi is still hip-hop, and a big part of hip-hop is groove. So tip number 3 is to utilize swing to add groove to your beat. The one thing worth noting here is that I've applied swing to the master, which allows all of the instruments to move and groove together. With the exception of the piano, all the sounds that you're hearing is coming from Native Instruments' Lofi Glow, which is one of their Kontakt Play Series instruments. Down in the description, I've linked a few videos where I've covered in depth some of the other instruments in that collection. When it comes to chord progressions, you don't always need to start on the 1. So tip number 4 is to start on the 4 chord. Now to hear the progression in a musical context. To apply tip number 2, let's add on that filter. It doesn't get more natural than playing it in yourself, so tip number 5 is to play in your drums and to leave it unquantized. Alright guys, so you can really see that the notes are off the grid. So if we were to quantize it, it sounds like this. So a groove in itself, but I prefer it to be unquantized for the context of this lo-fi beat. Alright guys, so for this beat, I added no swing to any of the sounds. Let's hear what that sounds like. Sometimes using just 3 chords can create more movement than an elaborate chord progression. Tip number 6 is to utilize chord inversions to create movement and to inform your melody. In this beat, I use a basic 2-5-1 chord progression. Let's just play that 5 chord throughout the beat to hear the different inversions. So even though I've used similar chords, you can see a down, up movement with the chords because I've used different chord inversions. With the way the chord progression moves and flows, it's now informed the melody, so the melody follows that down, up motion as well. Alright guys, so that was 3 beats with 6 tips and tricks on how to capture that lo-fi aesthetic in your music. Down in the comments, let me know if there's any genres you'd like for me to cover in future videos. As a reminder, hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. And with that said, happy beat making. Peace.